she thought she was safe here. Claire Thompson had buried her past behind the snowy hills of Stillwater, Montana. At 32, widowed and weary, she believed solitude would be her sanctuary. But the moment the giant man in the duster coat stepped into the town's winter gala, everything shifted. Wyatt Callahan, the largest rancher in 3 counties, walked past the crowd like a myth carved from stone. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. And when his eyes landed on Claire, something inside her tightened. No one noticed when he followed her out into the freezing dark. No one heard the words that would rewrite her life. I need a wife, and you need strong sons. Claire stared at him, breath clouding in the cold. Excuse me, she managed, but Wyatt wasn't joking. His voice was slow, deliberate, soaked in control. You're alone. You need protection. I have land, legacy, and I need heirs, strong ones. She shook her head, unsure if this was lunacy or arrogance. You don't even know me. He nodded slightly. I know enough. Then, without another word, he walked away, boots crunching over ice. Claire stood still, heart racing, trying to make sense of what just happened. But her gut whispered what her mind couldn't yet accept. This wasn't a proposal. It was a contract. The next morning, the deliveries began. A basket of fresh produce, 2 thick books on child development, and a letter written in perfect cursive. You will be provided for. You will never want. 2 sons. That's all I ask. Claire's hands trembled. This wasn't romantic. This was rehearsed, calculated. By noon, whispers spread around the school. Some of the older teachers smiled knowingly. Wyatt's always wanted a family, one said. You're lucky, Claire. But Claire didn't feel lucky. She felt watched. That night, a black pickup truck idled outside her cabin for 3 full minutes before driving off. No one knocked. Claire hadn't opened her mother's keepsake box in years. But something about Wyatt's letter stirred an old unease. Inside the box, beneath brittle newspaper clippings and a dried corsage, she found a photo she didn't remember seeing before. Her mother, smiling stiffly beside 4 other women, one of whom bore an uncanny resemblance to a younger Wyatt Callahan. On the back, scrawled in her mother's shaky handwriting, never trust him. Never bear his sons. Claire froze. Her mother had lived in Stillwater in her youth, but she never spoke of it. Was this a warning, a coincidence, or something far worse? Claire needed answers. She told herself she wasn't going to the ranch to entertain his madness. She was going to shut it down. But when Wyatt opened the door to the sprawling Callahan estate, he looked prepared. You came, he said simply. The air inside was warm, almost too warm, and silent. No clocks ticked. No TVs hummed. Just polished floors and walls full of portraits, none smiling. Sit, Wyatt said, already pouring tea. I'm not here to drink, Claire snapped. Why me? Wyatt didn't hesitate. Because I see strength in you, and because others have failed. Claire felt the floor shift beneath her. There were others. The tea was lukewarm, untouched. Claire sat across from Wyatt, her back straight, eyes cautious. He spoke like a man who had rehearsed every word. The women before you lacked resolve, he said. They broke under pressure, or they fled. But you... His voice lingered on the last word. Claire fought to keep her voice steady. What happened to them? Wyatt didn't blink. They left. Couldn't handle the isolation. The expectations. You can. Claire's fingers curled into fists. You're not looking for a partner. You're looking for property. He smiled, slow and strange. I'm offering permanence, safety and legacy. There's nothing shameful in that. It wasn't a conversation. It was a transaction. And Claire wasn't sure if she was the product or the prize. Later that day, Wyatt gave her a tour of the estate. Massive fields blanketed in snow, a stable filled with well-groomed horses, barns stocked like military depots. But it was the house that chilled her. Immaculate rooms, each eerily silent. Upstairs, he showed her a nursery already prepared. 2 cribs, blue and green, names stitched into blankets, Lucas and Henry. They're placeholders, Wyatt said. Our sons will grow into them. Claire stared at the names, unable to breathe. You've already chosen who they'll be. Wyatt turned to her. They'll be strong, disciplined. That's all that matters. Claire didn't ask who embroidered the blankets. She was afraid of the answer. That night, Claire was given a guest room, but the door didn't have a lock. She pushed a chair beneath the handle anyway. As she tried to sleep, floorboards creaked faintly in the hallway. She held her breath, listening. Nothing. In the morning, her phone had no signal. Wyatt claimed the storm knocked out the tower, but Claire suspected something else. Her car had been moved, closer to the barn, not where she parked it. She asked Wyatt directly. Security, he said. It's safer there. Claire forced a smile, but dread coiled inside her. This ranch wasn't a home. It was a cage carved from quiet hospitality. Searching for answers, Claire asked the local librarian about the Callahan family. The woman hesitated, then slipped her a file. You didn't get this from me. Inside, news clippings. 2 women missing from Stillwater, both dated within the last decade. One was listed as Wyatt's former fiancée. Disappeared after moving in with him, the article read. Case closed due to lack of evidence. Claire's stomach dropped. Another clipping mentioned Wyatt's mother, who was institutionalized after episodes involving child-related delusions. There was no mention of children. No family pictures in the estate. No past. Only legacy. A legacy Claire was expected to continue. Before she left the library, the old woman leaned in close. He chooses women like you. Alone, kind, believers. Then he remakes you. Claire walked back to her car in the snow, heart hammering. When she opened the door, there was something taped to her steering wheel. A folded page from a journal, faded handwriting, trembling words. If you found this, then he hasn't won yet. I tried to escape. He made me choose between the children or myself. I chose them. Don't make the same mistake. There was no name, only the faint scent of perfume. Claire stood frozen, the words burning into her mind. She wasn't the first, but would she be the last? The wind in Stillwater whispered things people wouldn't say aloud. After what she found taped to her steering wheel, Claire couldn't sit still. She visited the town bakery, the post office, the feed store, places where people chatted freely. But the moment she brought up Wyatt Callahan, the air thickened. Eyes darted, smiles faded. One older woman behind the counter offered a tight-lipped warning. You seem nice. Don't dig where no one's digging. Claire pressed, asking if the missing women ever returned. The woman dropped her gaze, disappeared like smoke. That night, Claire dreamed of a hallway filled with locked doors and women pounding from the other side, screaming without sound. She woke up gasping, unsure if it was only a dream or a warning left behind by someone who couldn't scream anymore. Claire visited Sheriff Briggs the next morning. He was a tall, tired man with lines under his eyes that hinted at too many unsolved questions. When she mentioned Wyatt, Briggs didn't react, at least not at first. Then he shut the blinds in his office and leaned back in his chair. "Has he made you an offer?" he asked. Claire nodded. "And did he mention sons?" Her heart nearly stopped. "Yes," she whispered. Briggs sighed, pulled open a drawer, and placed a thick file on the table. "He's clean on paper. No arrests, no official complaints. But women disappear around him. I can't prove anything." Stillwater's too quiet for that. Claire looked at the file. Inside, a photo of a girl who looked like her, with Wyatt's hand resting on her shoulder. Claire returned home shaken. She tried to call her sister in Denver, but the phone line buzzed dead. No signal. The internet router blinked red. A coincidence, or a silent message? That night, while sorting through books in her late mother's cedar chest, Claire discovered a journal wrapped in old linens, her mother's name etched on the inside cover. Pages filled with tightly written entries. One page stopped her cold. He wanted sons then too. Not love, not marriage. He watches, always watches. I ran when I found out what was beneath the barn. Claire flipped the page, but the rest had been torn out, sliced cleanly with a knife. Beneath the entry, faint pencil scratches remained. "Don't look under the floorboards if you want to sleep again." Claire couldn't ignore the journal. She returned to the Callahan Ranch under the guise of discussing the offer. Wyatt welcomed her with a calm smile. "I knew you'd come back," he said, offering a coat as if they were old friends. Claire asked for a tour of the barn. Wyatt paused, then led her through. "We keep feed and tools here," he explained, showing stalls and hay bales. Everything looked normal, too normal. But as she passed the center post, Claire noticed a section of floor that sounded hollow when she stepped on it. Wyatt's voice interrupted sharply. "You don't need to see everything just yet." He smiled, but his eyes didn't. Claire nodded, heart racing. Beneath the wood and dust, something was buried, and he knew she knew. That evening, Claire sat by her fireplace, staring at the photograph from her mother's chest. The women in it, 5 total, all seemed familiar. She realized they each resembled the same type, brunette, petite, early 30s, like her. Claire scanned the image again and noticed a man in the background, blurry, leaning against a barn beam. The same barn beam she saw earlier today. Same hat, same stance. But the picture was dated 1987. Wyatt would have been a child. This man looked identical to him, full grown. A father? A ghost? Or something much harder to explain? Claire flipped the photo over again. In shaky ink, her mother had written, "Some legacies don't begin, they repeat. And they never stop unless someone ends them." Wyatt didn't wait long. 3 days after Claire's return to the ranch, he sent a private doctor to her home. Not a request, a decision made for her. "Standard checkup," the doctor said, avoiding eye contact. Claire sat stiffly on the exam table while the woman took her vitals, drew blood, and asked quiet, rehearsed questions. "Are you fertile?" was one of them. Claire asked to see the forms, but the doctor refused. "Everything goes directly to Mr. Callahan." Claire felt her stomach churn. This wasn't about love, or even marriage. This was eugenics wrapped in etiquette, a plan to manufacture something, no, someone, that had nothing to do with her. And Wyatt was watching it all unfold like a rancher managing livestock. After the exam, Wyatt drove Claire back to the ranch in silence. The road wound through the snow-laced hills like a serpent. When he finally spoke, it was soft but firm. "You passed." Claire blinked. "Excuse me?" He didn't smile. "Your numbers. You're capable. You'll give me strong sons." Claire wanted to scream, to jump from the truck, but they were miles from anywhere, and Wyatt's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "Why, sons?" she asked, barely above a whisper. Wyatt glanced at her. "Because daughters inherit weakness, sons carry fire. You'll understand when you see the legacy I've built." The word legacy sat on her chest like a stone. She didn't want to know what he meant, but she would. The legacy Wyatt mentioned came into focus the next morning. Claire was led to a sealed room at the far end of the ranch house. Inside, rows of books, family trees, photographs, none with women, only fathers and sons. Callahan men dressed for war, for ranching, for business. Claire noticed one portrait, a young boy with sharp features, identical to Wyatt's. "That's my son," he said. "Was." Claire turned. Wyatt's voice softened, but not with sadness, with pride. "He died at birth. Weak heart. His mother failed him." Claire stepped back. That wasn't her fault. Wyatt's eyes narrowed. "She chose softness. I won't make that mistake again." Claire realized then, he didn't want sons. He wanted control. Sons were only the currency. The nursery had changed. Wyatt redecorated. More masculine, less pastel. The names Lucas and Henry had been removed, replaced by blank wooden plaques. "They'll name themselves," Wyatt said. Claire's voice trembled. "What if I don't want children?" His jaw tightened. "You agreed by returning. That was your answer." Claire knew now. This wasn't a marriage proposal. It was a ritual, a script he had written and performed before. And every woman who challenged the ending had vanished. That night, Claire searched the room again and found a camera nestled inside a stuffed bear on the dresser. It was still recording. She stared into the lens and whispered, "I know what you are." Claire waited until midnight. She crept down the back hallway barefoot, the floor cold against her skin. She reached the garage. Her car was gone. In its place, Wyatt's black truck loomed like a shadow. The barn light flickered in the distance. Claire followed instinct, moving silently through the snow. Inside the barn, the air was thick with hay and something else. Something rotten. She found the hollow floorboard again, this time kneeling down to pry it open. Just as she reached for the crack, a voice behind her froze her blood. "Curiosity killed the weak," Wyatt said calmly. "But you're not weak, are you, Claire?" Her hand hovered inches from the truth, but she knew. This time, the price of knowing might be survival itself. Claire didn't answer him. She stood slowly, hands raised slightly, like approaching a wild animal. Wyatt looked calm, but something had changed. His breathing, his stance. "Go back inside," he said. "This part of the ranch isn't meant for you." Claire obeyed, but her mind raced. That floorboard wasn't just a creak in the barn. It was a threshold. That night, her guest room was locked from the outside. No more pretending. She tried the windows, nailed shut. Her phone was missing from her coat. In the mirror, she saw herself. Not a woman in control, but a piece in someone else's plan. Wyatt's legacy wasn't just obsession. It was a machine, and she had just been bolted into place. On the second day of confinement, Claire didn't eat. A tray of eggs and toast was left by the door, untouched. She spent hours pacing, counting steps between the walls, pressing on every panel. No loose floorboards, no vents wide enough to crawl through. She screamed once, only once, and was met with silence so complete, it drowned the echo. On the third morning, someone knocked, soft, deliberate. A voice whispered, "Don't trust him, not even when he smiles." Claire pressed her ear to the door. The voice continued, "He says we all left, but not all of us could. He only keeps the ones who give him sons. The footsteps vanished, but the voice stayed in Claire's head like a needle under skin. On the fourth day, Claire faked illness. She vomited water on the floor and banged on the door until Wyatt answered. He looked down at her, then surprisingly, offered his hand. "Let's get you fresh air." She followed him outside, her legs shaky but heart pounding with clarity. Wyatt took her to the greenhouse, the one part of the ranch she hadn't seen. Inside were strange plants, herbs, and stacked boxes. One box slid open accidentally, revealing dozens of photographs. All women, all with children. Some photos were marked with X's. Claire recognized one face, the woman from the journal page, and her arms were wrapped around a boy who looked just like Wyatt. That night, Claire heard a tapping, this time from beneath her bed. She got down slowly, expecting a rodent. Instead, she found a loose piece of carpet and a knot in the wooden floor. She lifted it. A crawl space, narrow and dark. She squeezed in and followed it, her breathing shallow. 10 minutes of crawling led her to a cold metal grate. She peeked through, into Wyatt's study. He was speaking to someone on the phone. "She's perfect. Strong hips. Healthy record. She'll give me 2, maybe 3. Pause. No, I'll keep this one. The others cracked too soon." Claire clenched her fists. The others. He wasn't searching for a wife. He was breeding replacements. Claire crawled back to her room, covered in dust and rage. She had to act. She pulled a thin hairpin from her pocket and began testing the lock. Hours passed. On the 5th attempt, the knob gave way with a soft click. Claire didn't run. Not yet. She crept through the hallway, reaching the den. There, Wyatt's gun case stood wide open, but one revolver was missing. Claire looked toward the library and found something even more terrifying. A baby monitor on the shelf. Active. She picked it up. From the speaker, the sound of breathing. Then, a child's sob. Faint. Claire dropped the device. The child wasn't a ghost. It was real, and it was still here. Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her bed, clutching the baby monitor, listening to that soft, broken cry. It wasn't an echo or a recording. It was happening now. When the house grew quiet, she moved. She left her door ajar, slipping down the hallway like a shadow. The wind outside howled against the windows, masking her steps. She made it to the barn without triggering the motion light. Inside, the smell hit her first. Damp hay and something more. Something wrong. She found the hollow floorboard again and pried it open with a rusted shovel. Beneath it, a wooden ladder led into darkness. She hesitated only for a breath, then climbed down into the unknown. The space beneath the barn was not a basement. It was a chamber. Concrete walls. A single bulb swinging from the ceiling. And in the far corner, behind a chain-link gate, sat a boy. Barefoot, shivering, no older than 6. His hair was too long, his clothes too thin, and when he looked up, Claire's heart shattered. He didn't speak. He couldn't. But his eyes pleaded. She stepped forward. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'm going to get you out." The boy pointed toward the wall behind him. Claire followed his finger and saw it. Names scratched into the concrete. Dozens. And next to each, a single date. Then a cross. Except his. His name was Daniel. No date. No cross. Not yet. Claire picked the gate lock with trembling fingers, lifted Daniel into her arms, and whispered calming nonsense as they climbed the ladder together. The boy clung to her with surprising strength, but didn't speak. As they reached the barn floor, a noise stopped her cold, the unmistakable snap of boots on gravel. Claire ducked behind a stack of crates, holding Daniel close. Wyatt's voice floated in through the barn doors. "You hungry, little man? I brought you stew." Claire covered the boy's mouth, but he didn't move. He had done this before. He knew how to be invisible. Wyatt entered slowly, the metal tray clinking. "We're a family now," he muttered to himself. "A full one. Just need one more." Wyatt left after 10 minutes, never noticing the open hatch. Claire waited until the house was dark again, then brought Daniel back through the greenhouse entrance and into the guest room. She locked the door behind her, hiding him beneath the bed. "Just for now," she said. "Just until I can get help." She gave him a blanket and slid him a granola bar from her purse. He ate in silence, eyes wide. Claire sat against the door, heart pounding. She had evidence. She had a child. She needed a way out. But first, she needed someone she could trust. Sheriff Briggs, if he was still watching like he said he was. Claire waited until dawn. She dressed quietly, wrote a note for Daniel, "Don't open for anyone but me," and locked him inside. Then she walked through the icy fields, alone, toward town. No phone, no car, just her boots and her breath. She reached the sheriff's office an hour later, frost clinging to her coat. Briggs was already at his desk, drinking coffee. He looked up, startled. "Claire," she nodded, eyes red. "I found him. The boy. He's alive." Briggs stood slowly, putting down his cup. "Tell me everything." As she spoke, he opened his drawer and pulled out a small recording device. Then, without a word, he hit record. This time, they would not let Wyatt Callahan vanish into silence. Claire spoke quickly, her voice low but urgent. Sheriff Briggs sat motionless, except for his eyes. They never left hers. "You're telling me he's keeping a child in his barn," he said finally. "And you have him now?" Claire nodded. "He's safe, for now, but Wyatt knows someone was down there." Briggs stood and went to the back room. He returned with a worn manila folder. "I've been waiting for a reason to act," he said. Inside the folder were photos, letters, even a thumb drive. "You're not the first woman to come to me, but you're the first one who didn't disappear." Claire stared at the names, the same names Daniel had scratched into the walls. They were real. They were gone. Back at the ranch, Claire returned to the guest room to find Daniel awake and alert. He didn't speak, but when he pointed to the baby monitor, Claire understood. Wyatt had been listening. Maybe still was. She unplugged it and crushed it under her heel. "We're leaving soon," she told him. But the ranch was a fortress. No cell service, cameras on every exterior wall. And Wyatt had begun staying home more, watching her, testing her. Claire needed a plan, and she knew where to start. Not with escape, but with control. Information was power, and she had a classroom's worth of methods for decoding patterns and manipulating systems. This time, lesson plans would save her life. Claire began mapping Wyatt's movements. What time he brought meals, when he left for supply runs. Which lights turned on and off at night. She taught Daniel with crayons, turning survival into a game. "Circle the window that faces the road," she'd whisper. "Draw where the cameras point." Daniel understood more than she expected. Meanwhile, Claire used the school laminator trick, layering wax and pencil to copy keys when Wyatt left them in the door. She crafted a duplicate of the back gate key using foil and melted soap. Every step she took was measured, quiet, calculated. She wasn't going to run. She was going to outsmart him. During a visit to town, Wyatt insisted Claire attend the Stillwater Winter Jubilee, a public gesture to show they were courting. He paraded her around like a prized possession. When she excused herself to the restroom, she found Sheriff Briggs waiting in the hallway. He slipped her a burner phone, hidden inside a roll of paper towels. "Press 1. Anytime, day or night," he whispered. "But I need more. I need him caught on tape. I need to see that child." Claire nodded once. As she walked back into the crowd, she saw Wyatt watching her from across the room. That night, he said nothing, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Wyatt declared a town-wide Callahan family celebration for the coming Saturday. He claimed it was tradition. In truth, it was a trap. Claire saw it clearly now. He planned to announce her pregnancy, fake or real, to seal her fate publicly and keep her under his name. "We'll build something lasting," he told her. Claire smiled back, but inside, she was already moving pieces. She had recorded his voice. She had the key. She had Daniel. Now she needed the moment. One clean window of time to escape and expose the truth. And maybe, just maybe, end the Callahan legacy before another name was carved into that concrete wall. Saturday came with perfect weather, sun on snow. Blue skies stretched wide over Stillwater. Wyatt stood at the center of the Callahan Ranch's courtyard, dressed in full cowboy regalia. Townspeople gathered around picnic tables, sipping cider, oblivious. Claire stood beside him, her hands folded tight, eyes scanning the faces. Somewhere in the crowd, Sheriff Briggs waited, wired, ready. Wyatt raised a glass. "This is more than celebration," he said, voice booming. "It's legacy. Today, I honor the future." Then, without warning, he placed a hand on Claire's stomach. "My wife, and soon, the mother of sons." The crowd clapped. Claire froze. Wyatt had just rewritten reality in front of everyone and dared her to contradict him. Claire kept her face neutral, but her pulse pounded. She stepped away and whispered to Briggs near the hay bales. "Tonight, after dark, he'll be asleep by 10. I'll have Daniel ready." Briggs nodded. "Leave the door unlocked. I'll come quiet." Claire returned to the house. She found Daniel hiding in the linen closet, his secret spot. "Tonight's the night," she said, holding his hand. "We're going home." He didn't smile, but he gripped her fingers with purpose. Claire packed quietly. One bag, the burner phone, the voice recorder, and Daniel's blanket. As she zipped the bag shut, she heard Wyatt whistling in the hallway. The tune was old, off-key, and deeply unsettling. By 10:30, the house was still. Claire crept from her room with Daniel close behind. She eased open the front door and placed a small rock to keep it ajar. Then she turned off the nursery monitor and whispered into the burner phone. "Now." Minutes passed. Too many. Suddenly, headlights sliced through the trees. A sheriff's cruiser. Claire ran to the porch, but the car was empty. No Briggs, no sound. Then, a gunshot split the air. Claire screamed and shoved Daniel behind her. Wyatt emerged from the side path, holding a rifle. "I warned him," he said calmly. "No one takes what's mine." He pointed the gun at the cruiser and fired again. Glass shattered. "And no one lies to me." Claire dragged Daniel into the kitchen and locked the door behind them. She pulled the key from her pocket, the one she'd made from melted soap, and unlocked the cellar hatch. "Down," she said. "Fast." Wyatt's footsteps pounded the hallway above. Claire hit the recorder, tucked it into the pantry wall, and followed Daniel down the stairs. The space was damp, but it led to the tunnel she'd discovered beneath the greenhouse, her escape route. As they moved through the dark, Claire heard Wyatt yelling, "You think I didn't plan for this? You think I haven't done this before?" Claire grabbed Daniel tighter and kept moving. The tunnel narrowed, then opened, and at the other end, Sheriff Briggs, bloodied but standing. Briggs raised a shotgun. "Get behind me." Claire obeyed. Wyatt's boots echoed down the tunnel behind them. He was close. Too close. "I built this place," he growled. "It ends with me." Claire stepped forward, blocking his path. "You're right. It does." Wyatt raised his rifle, but before he could fire, Briggs pulled the trigger. The shot was deafening. Wyatt collapsed, groaning, clutching his shoulder. Briggs kicked the rifle aside and cuffed him as backup arrived. Claire fell to her knees, holding Daniel, who finally spoke for the first time. Just one word. "Free." And for the first time, in months. Claire believed it too. The Callahan legacy was broken, but justice was just beginning. The courtroom smelled like varnished wood and old dust. Claire sat at the witness stand, her palms sweating against the polished surface. Wyatt Callahan looked smaller now, his arm in a sling, suit ill-fitting, but his eyes burned with the same control. The defense painted him as a misunderstood patriarch, a man obsessed with legacy but never proven guilty of wrongdoing. "These women left of their own free will," the lawyer said. "And the child. No documentation, no birth certificate, nothing tying him to Wyatt." Claire leaned into the microphone. "No paperwork, because Wyatt never intended for anyone to know he existed." She looked straight at the jury. "But I heard him. I lived it. And that boy, Daniel, he's proof." Sheriff Briggs testified next. He played the tape Claire had left in the pantry wall. Wyatt's voice echoed through the courtroom. "You think I haven't done this before?" The jury shifted. Then came the evidence, photos from the greenhouse. The hidden bunker, the wall of names. Every detail matched Claire's story, but the defense fought back. They showed a photo of Claire smiling at the Winter Jubilee. "Does this look like a hostage?" the lawyer asked. Claire stood again, this time not waiting for a question. "Smiling didn't mean I was safe. It meant I was surviving. There's a difference." Her voice didn't crack. Her spine didn't bend. Public opinion split the town like a fault line. Some saw Claire as a hero. Others whispered she was just another woman chasing a rich man's name. She knew what she was getting into, one woman said outside the courthouse. But the letters from past victims, found buried in a safe at the ranch, said otherwise. Each letter was read aloud, each one a nail in Wyatt's coffin. And then, Daniel's drawing was entered into evidence. A child's sketch of himself behind a gate, a tall man outside, and next to him, 5 smaller figures, all crossed out. The courtroom went silent. Claire didn't look at Wyatt. She looked at Daniel, sitting quietly beside Briggs, clutching her scarf. The verdict came after 7 hours. Guilty. On multiple counts: unlawful imprisonment, child endangerment, obstruction of justice. But Claire knew legal justice wasn't the whole story. She filed for full guardianship of Daniel, and it was granted. She took him to a therapist in Bozeman, where he spoke his second word: home. She turned the Callahan Ranch over to state authorities, who uncovered human remains near the East Barn. The DNA matched 2 missing women from 10 years ago. Claire didn't return for the press. She returned for the others, the ones who didn't escape, the ones whose names lived on concrete walls in silence. Claire began speaking at conferences, colleges, women's shelters. She told the story not just as a survivor, but as a teacher. "We don't need to teach girls how to survive monsters," she said. "We need to teach boys not to become them." Her words traveled further than she expected. Legislators passed new laws on rural investigation procedures. Officers were trained differently. She hung Daniel's drawing in her new classroom, this time with no bars, just blue skies and an open gate. Claire wasn't just the woman who took down Wyatt Callahan. She was the one who ended a legacy of silence. And in doing so, she started a new one built on truth. The Callahan ranch sat abandoned, wrapped in crime scene tape and overgrown weeds. But in Claire's memory, it still breathed. Every creaking board, every hidden camera, every whispered threat still echoed. Yet life had changed. Claire no longer flinched at footsteps behind her. She now lived in Helena, Montana, in a quiet yellow house with Daniel and 2 adopted dogs. Daniel had just turned 7. He spoke often now, asked questions, made jokes, but most importantly, he slept through the night. Claire knew healing wasn't a switch, it was a road, and they were walking it side by side. Claire reopened her teaching career with a purpose that went beyond the classroom. She didn't just teach reading and math. She taught boundaries, consent, and courage. She started a small outreach program, Echoes into Action, designed to help children recover from rural trauma. Her students didn't know her past, only that she listened more deeply than most adults. But once, when a little girl stayed late and whispered, "He touches me when no one's home," Claire didn't freeze. She acted. And in that moment, Claire understood that surviving Wyatt Callahan wasn't her ending. It was her beginning. As a defender of those still trapped in shadows. Sheriff Briggs visited often. He had retired early, but kept working cases unofficially, just the ones that mattered. "You ever think about leaving Montana?" he asked one afternoon. Claire smiled, watching Daniel climb a jungle gym. "I thought about it every day, until I realized I wasn't the one who needed to disappear." Briggs nodded. "You changed this place." Claire didn't answer. Instead, she handed him a sealed envelope, Daniel's official adoption papers, stamped and final. "We changed it," she corrected. Briggs looked at the boy, then back at the woman who broke a cycle carved into generations. "You gave him a future," he said. "That makes you dangerous, in the best way." On the 1-year anniversary of Wyatt's conviction, Claire returned to Stillwater, not to revisit the ranch, but to speak. The town hall was packed. Some welcomed her, others couldn't meet her eyes. She stood at the podium, unfolded a simple sheet of paper, and began. "Some people say strong sons shape the world, but strength without empathy is just control. Legacy without love is just repetition. I don't want sons who are strong. I want children who are whole, who are free to feel, to protect, to speak." She looked out at the crowd. "And when someone tells them to be quiet, I want them to roar." After the speech, Claire knelt beside a new memorial stone near the church. The names from the barn wall had been carved into it. No flowers, just truth. Daniel stood beside her, holding her hand. "Did they die because they were weak?" he asked. Claire shook her head. "They died because no one listened. But now the world will." As they left, a woman in the crowd asked for a hug, then another. Then a line formed, people ready to tell their stories. Claire understood then. Justice isn't always a courtroom victory. Sometimes it's a woman refusing to stay silent ever again. If this story moved you, share it. There are real people living in silence, in fear, in hidden places even now. Use your voice. Speak for someone who can't. Support local shelters. Speak up when something feels wrong. And never dismiss the quiet signs of suffering. Justice doesn't start in court. It starts with awareness and with action. Subscribe to Stories in Shadows for more true inspired narratives that expose what hides behind closed doors. Because every voice matters. And sometimes, one story is all it takes to change everything.